Okay, we're going to look at the instructional shifts that have been brought to us by the implementation of the Common Core. These resources have been provided by engageny.org and can be found on their website. So, if you have not heard about the shifts yet in the Common Core, we have a list here. They're broken into 6 different categories, both for the ELA literacy and then the 6 shifts in math. You can also see these grouped in pairs and cutting down the shifts to 3. So you may see that in different places. But today we're going to talk about the 6 shifts for each one. First, for the ELA standards, and this again is reading across all content areas, so we have to show proficiency on these standards in every single course. It has been stated that the eligible content for ELA standards measures about 83% of their eligible content is found in the DOK level 3, and that's in this area here, the strategic thinking level, and 73% of the eligible content rests in the level 2 for the skill and concept. So we want to really think about these two pieces of the circle graph here, the pie graph here, when we are looking at implementing the ELA literacy standards across all content levels. So as you see that the 6 shifts here listed down the left-hand side, they are each given a name with minimal descriptions on the right. So for the first shift, balancing informational literacy text, we talked a long time ago that at the high school level, students should be primarily reading non-fictional or informational text. It's about a 70-30 split. So that is something where we may have to take a look at what we are reading with students, and this again is going across all content levels, not just in the English department. And we really want to look for a more balance of informational text at the high school level. Moving down to knowledge and disciplines, students should build knowledge about the world through text rather than teacher or teacher activities. This is again where we want to see the problem solving, where we want to see the critical thinking skills, the inference skills here for students to use through their reading and not just through teacher direction or activities. In shift 3, we see a staircase of complexity, and this is something that we are actually going to learn more of specifically in a different professional development, as it is pretty complex when we sit down to really think about it. But just generally, students read the central grade-appropriate text around which instruction is centered. Teachers are patient, create more time and space to support the curriculum for close reading or deep reading. And again, this is something where, we really need to push the students to read at or above their grade level. And, teachers should stop doing all the reading for students. I know there was a lot of reading to the students in classes. We need to put that back on the students. Dr. David Coleman, who is the founder of Student Achievement Partners in New York, he had a quote saying, "Let them read like a detective and write like a conscientious investigative reporter." So that's just something to keep in mind when you are working with text-based reading in your class. Shift 4, text-based answers. We do a lot of this already, I've seen in a lot of different classes, but we want to keep encouraging it. Students engage in rich and rigorous evidence-based conversations about the text, and you'll see that fits nicely with Shift 4, which is writing from sources. So these two really go hand in hand in terms of using textual-based evidence to support their claims both in dialogue and both in the written form. A recent study indicated that 80% of the questions students were given before, during, or after reading could be answered without direct reference to the text. So we want to make sure we address that and start looking at our questions with our study guides, our outlining questions, our structured note questions, and quiz questions and test questions, and making sure that we are pushing the students to go back to the text and support their claims. In terms of writing from sources, again, it's emphasis of evidence and textual-based information, but we want to also make sure we are looking to inform and make arguments versus just a persuasive essay. They really want to steer clear from, opinions and life experiences to more fact-based, textual-based evidence to support claims and make a solid foundational argument. And finally, the shift 6, academic vocabulary. This is something I think students always seem to struggle with, but we need to make sure students constantly build the transferable vocabulary they need to access grade level complex text. This can be done effectively by spiraling light content and increasing complex text. This is increasing academic and discipline-specific vocabulary to all students, making sure that they are really learning some of that more complex academic vocabulary. Moving on to the shifts in mathematics, again, a little bit different than the ELA literacy standards, and pretty much, science and math are going to be looking at these. A few of the specialty areas that use mathematics in terms of maybe engineering classes will be paying particularly close attention to these shifts. But shift 1 is focus, and that just basically means teachers need to narrow and deepen the scope of their time and energy spent in the math classroom. Maybe you're narrowing down 2 to 4 topics that are the focus for this grade level, this specific math course, and by focusing deeply on that in the specific grade level, these students will gain foundational knowledge of those 2 to 3 topics, and we really need to prioritize the standards for the students. Shift 2 is coherence, and again, principals and teachers will carefully and logically connect the learning within and across grades so that students can build new understandings onto foundations built in previous classes in previous years. Each standard we need to think of as not just a new event for a student, but is an extension building upon previous knowledge. Fluency. Students are expected to have speed and accuracy with simple calculations. We need to look at, how are teachers structuring class time and homework time for students? There is going to be some sort of memorization needed through repetition so that they can quickly calculate basic core functions of the mathematical material. Deep understanding, shift 4. Again, students deeply understanding and can operate easily within the math concept before moving on. Instead of just teaching them how, the trick to answering it, the students need to know how to get the right answer, why they approach a question the way they do to solve it. They really need to learn the mathematical steps, not just the tricks. Teachers support students' ability to access concepts from a number of different perspectives, giving them many options to solve a math problem, even if it's not the one intended response you were looking for. Shift 5, application. Students are expected to use math and choose the appropriate concept for application even when they are not prompted to do so. This is where we really want to link that math learning to real-world concepts and situations. This should extend beyond just the life of the classroom. And this is in the same case for teachers in other content areas like I said before, maybe the science realm, the technology education realm, maybe the business realm, making sure that the students are using the appropriate math concepts to make meaning of the different specified curriculum. And finally, dual intensity. This is just practicing and understanding at the same time. There needs to be more of a balance between these two things in the classroom. Both need to incur with the same type of intensity. That will finish us up for reviewing the shifts in the mathematics and ELA literacy standards through the Common Core implementation, and we will move on to the next part of the module. Thank you.